Marmion by Sir Walter Scott. Canto first. The Castle. Day set on Norm's castle steep, and Tweed's fair river, broad and deep, and Cheviot's mountains lone. The battled towers the donjon keep, the loophole grates where captives weep, the flanking walls that round it sweep, in yellow lustre shone. The warriors on the turrets high, moving athwart the evening sky, seemed forms of giant height. Their armor, as it caught the rays, flashed back again the western blaze in lines of dazzling light. St. George's banner, broad and gay, now faded, as the fading ray less bright and less was flung. The evening gale had scarce the power to wave it on the donjon tower, so heavily it hung. The scouts had parted on their search, the castle gates were barred. Above the gloomy portal arch, timing his footsteps to a march, the warder kept his guard, low humming as he paced along some ancient border gathering song. A distant trampling sound he hears. He looks abroad, and soon appears o'er Horncliffe hills a plump of spears, beneath a pennon gay. A horseman, darting from the crowd, like lightning from a summer cloud, spurs on his mettled courser proud before the dark array. Beneath the sable palisade that closed the castle barricade, his bugle horn he blew. The warder hasted from the wall, and warned the captain in the hall, for well the blast he knew, and joyfully that night did call to sewer, squire, and seneschal. Now broach ye a pipe of malvoisie, bring pasties of the dough, and quickly make the entrance free, and bid my heralds ready be, and every minstrel sound his glee, and all our trumpets blow. And from the platform spare ye not to fire a noble salvo shot. Lord Marmion waits below. Then to the castle's lower ward sped 30 yeomen tall. The iron-studded gates unbarred, raised the portcullis' ponderous guard, the lofty palisade unsparred, and let the drawbridge fall. Along the bridge Lord Marmion rode, proudly his red-roan charger trode. His helm hung at the saddle bow, while by his visage you might know he was a stalwart knight, and keen, and had in many a battle been. The scar on his brown cheek revealed a token true of Bosworth field. His eyebrow dark, and eye of fire, showed spirit proud, and prompt to ire. Yet lines of thought upon his cheek did deep design and counsel speak. His forehead by his casque-worn bare, his thick mustache and curly hair, coal-black and grizzled here and there, but more through toil than age. His square-turned joints and strength of limb showed him no carpet knight so trim, but in close fight a champion grim, in camps a leader sage. Well was he armed from head to heel, in mail and plate of Milan steel, but his strong helm of mighty cost was all with burnished gold embossed. Amid the plumage of the crest, a falcon hovered on her nest, with wings outspread and forward breast. Even such a falcon on his shield soared sable in an azure field. The golden legend bore aright, who checkst at me to death is dight. Blue was the charger's broidered rein, blue ribbons decked his arching mane. The knightly house's ample fold was velvet blue and trapped with gold. Behind him rode 2 gallant squires of noble name and knightly sires. They burned the gilded spurs to claim, for well could each a war horse tame, could draw the bow, and the sword could sway, and lightly bear the ring away. Nor less with courteous precept stored, could dance in hall and carve at board, and frame love ditties passing rare, and sing them to a lady fair. 4 men at arms came at their backs, with halberd bill and battle axe. They bore Lord Marmion's lance so strong, and led his sumpter mules along. An ambling palfrey, when at need, him listed ease his battle steed. The last and trusted of the 4, on high his forky pennon bore, like swallow's tail, in shape and hue, fluttered the streamer glossy blue, where, blazoned sable as before, the towering falcon seemed to soar. Last, 20 yeomen, 2 and 2, in hosen black and jerkins blue, with falcons broidered on each breast, attended to their lord's behest. Each, chosen for an archer good, knew hunting craft by lake or wood. Each one a 6-foot bow could bend, and far a cloth-yard shaft could send. Each held a boar spear tough and strong, and at their belts their quivers rung. Their dusty palfreys and array showed they had marched a weary way. 'Tis meet that I should tell you now how fairly armed and ordered how the soldiers of the guard, with musket, pike, and morion, to welcome noble Marmion, stood in the castle yard. Minstrels and trumpeters were there. The gunner held his linstock yare, for welcome shot prepared. Entered the train, and such a clang, and then through all his turrets rang, old Norham never heard. The guards their Morris pikes advanced, the trumpets flourished brave. The cannon from the ramparts glanced, and thundering welcome gave. A blithe salute, in martial sort, the minstrels well might sound. For as Lord Marmion crossed the court, he scattered angels round. Welcome to Norham, Marmion, stout heart and open hand. While dost thou brook thy gallant roan, thy flower of English land. Ter Perseverance, whom tabards deck, with silver scutcheon round their neck, stood on the steps of stone, by which you reach the donjon gate. And there, with herald pomp and state, they hailed Lord Marmion. They hailed him Lord of Fontanier, of Lutterward and Scrivel Bay, of Tamworth Tower and town. And he, their courtesy to requite, gave them a chain of 12 marks weight, and all as he lighted down. Now largest Lord Marmion, knight of the crest of gold, a blazoned shield in battle won, ne'er guarded heart so bold. They marshalled him to the castle hall, where the guests stood all aside, and loudly nourished the trumpet call, and the heralds loudly cried, Room, lordings, room for Lord Marmion, with the crest and helm of gold. Full well we know the trophies won in the lists at Cotswold. Their vanity Ralph de Witton strove 'gainst Marmion's force to stand. To him he lost his lady love, and to the king his land. Ourselves beheld the listed field, a sight both sad and fair. We saw Lord Marmion pierce his shield, and saw his saddle bare. We saw the victor win the crest he wears with worthy pride, and on the gibbet tree reversed his foeman's scutcheon tied. Place, nobles, for the falcon knight. Room, room, ye gentles gay, for him who conquered in the right, Marmion of Fontanier. Then stepped to meet that noble lord Sir Hugh the Heron bold, Baron of Twiswell and of Ford, and captain of the hold. He led Lord Marmion to the dais, raised o'er the pavement high, and placed him on the upper place. They feasted full and high. The whiles a northern harper rude chanted a rhyme of deadly feud, how the fierce Thirlwalls and Ridleys all, stout Wilmanswick and Hardingick, and Hughie of Hawdon and Willow the Wall, have set on Sir Albany Featherstonhaugh, and taken his life at the Deadman's Shaw. Scantily Lord Marmion's ear could brook the harper's barbarous lay, yet much he praised the pains he took, and well those pains did pay, for lady's suit and minstrel strain by night should ne'er be heard in vain. Now, good Lord Marmion, Heron says, of your fair courtesy, I pray you bide with some little space in this poor tower with me. Here may you keep your arms from rust, may breathe your war horse well. Seldom hath passed a week but guest or feast of arms befell. The Scots can rein a mettled steed, and love to couch a spear. St. George, a stirring life they lead, that have such neighbours near. Then stay with us a little space, our northern wars to learn. I pray you for your lady's grace. Lord Marmion's brow grew stern. The captain marked his altered look, and gave a squire the sign. A mighty wassail bowl he took, and crowned it high with wine. Now pledge me here, Lord Marmion, but first, I pray thee fair, where hast thou left that page of thine, that used to serve thy cup of wine, whose beauty was so rare? When last in Raby Towers we met, the boy I closely eyed, and often marked his cheeks were wet, with tears he fain would hide. His was no rugged horseboy's hand, to burn a shield, or sharpen brand, or saddle battle steed, but meeker seemed for lady fair, to fan her cheek, or curl her hair, or through embroidery, rich and rare, the slender silk to lead. His skin was fair, his ringlets gold, his bosom, when he sighed, the russet doublet's rugged fold could scarce repel its pride. Say, Hast thou given that lovely youth to serve in lady's bower? Or was the gentle page in sooth a gentle paramour? Lord Marmion ill could brook such jest. He rolled his kindling eye, with pain his rising wrath suppressed, yet made a calm reply. That boy, thou thought, so goodly fair, he might not brook the northern air. More of his fate if thou wouldst learn, I left him sick in Lindisfarne. Enough of him. But Heron, say, why does thy lovely lady gay disdain to grace the hall today? Or has that dame, so fair and sage, gone on some pious pilgrimage? He spoke in covert scorn, for fame whispered light tales of Heron's dame. Unmarked, at least unrecked the taunt, careless the knight replied, no bird whose feathers gaily flaunt delights in cage to bide, nor am as grim in grated clothes, hemmed in by battlement and foes, and many a darksome tower. And better loves my lady bright to sit in liberty and light, in fair Queen Margaret's bower. We hold our greyhound in our hand, our falcon on our glove. But where shall we find leash or band for dame that loves to rove? Let the wild falcon soar her swing, she'll stoop when she has tired her wing. Nay, if with royal James's bride the lovely Lady Heron bide, behold me here a messenger, your tender greetings prompt to bear. For, to the Scottish court addressed, I journey at our king's behest, and pray you, of your grace, provide for me and mine a trusty guide. I have not ridden in Scotland since James backed the cause of that mock prince, Warbeck, that Flemish counterfeit, who on the gibbet paid the cheat. Then did I march with Surrey's power. With time we raised old Ayton out tower. For such like need, my lord, I trow, Norm can find your guides anew. For here be some have pricked as far on Scottish ground as to Dunbar, have drunk the mucks of St. Bothan's ale, and driven the beeves of Lauderdale, harried the wise of Greenlaw's goods, and given them light to sell their hoods. Now, in good sooth, Lord Marmion cried, were I in warlike wise to ride, a better guard I would not lack than your stout forayers at my back. But as in form of peace I go, a friendly messenger to know why through all Scotland, near and far, their king is mustering troops for war. The sight of plundering border spears might justify suspicious fears, and deadly feud or thirst of spoil break out in some unseemly broil. A herald were my fitting guide, or friar sworn in peace to bide, or pardoner, or traveling priest, or strolling pilgrim at the least. The captain mused a little space, and passed his hand across his face. Fain would I find the guide you want, but ill may spare a pursuivant. The only men that safe can ride mine errands on the Scottish side. And though a bishop built this fort, few holy brethren here resort. Even our good chaplain, as I ween, since our last siege we have not seen. The mass he might not sing or say, upon one stinted meal a day. So safe he sat in Durham Isle, and prayed for our success the while. Our Norham vicar, woe betide, is all too well in case to ride. The priest of Shorewood, he could rein the wildest war horse in your train. But then, no spearman in the hall will sooner swear, or stab, or brawl. Friar John of Tilmouth were the man, a blithesome brother at the can. A welcome guest in hall and bower, he knows each castle, town, and tower, in which the wine and ale is good, twixt Newcastle and Holyrood. But that good man, as ill befalls, hath seldom left our castle walls, since on the vigil of St. Bede, in evil hour, he crossed the Tweed, to teach Dame Alison her creed. Old Butrig found him with his wife, and John, an enemy to strife, sans frock and hood, fled for his life. The jealous churl hath deeply swore that, if again he venture o'er, he shall shrieve penitent no more. Little he loves such risks, I know, yet, in your guard, perchance, will go. Young Selby, at the fair hall-board, carved to his uncle and that lord, and reverently took up the word. Kind uncle, woe were we each one if harm should hap to brother John. He is a man of mirthful speech, can many a game and gambol teach. Full well at tables can he play, and sweep at bowls the stake away. None can a lustier carol brawl, the needfullest amongst us all. When time hangs heavy in the hall, and snow comes thick at Christmas tide, and we can neither hunt nor ride a foray on the Scottish side, the vowed revenge of Buttig rude may end in worse than loss of hood. Let Friar John in safety still in chimney corner snore his fill, roast hissing crabs or flagons swill. Last night to Norham there came one, will better guide Lord Marmion. Nephew, quoth Heron, by my fay, while hast thou spoke, say forth thy say. Here is a holy palmer come, from Salem first, and last from Rome, one that hath kissed the blessed tomb, and visited each holy shrine in Araby and Palestine. On hills of Armeni hath been, where Noah's ark may yet be seen. By that Red Sea too hath he trod, which parted at the prophet's rod. In Sinai's wilderness he saw the mount, where Israel heard the law, mid thunder dint and flashing levin, and shadows, mists, and darkness given. He shows St. James' cockle shell, of fair Montserrat too can tell, and of that grot where olives nod, where, darling of each heart and eye, from all the youth of Sicily, St. Rosalie retired to God. To South St. George of Norwich Mary, St. Thomas too of Canterbury, Cuthbert of Durham, and St. Bede, for his sins pardon hath he prayed. He knows the passes of the north, and seeks far shrines beyond the Forth. Little he eats, and long will wake, and drinks but of the stream or lake. This were a guide o'er moor and dale. But when our John hath quaffed his ale, as little as the winds that blows, and warms itself against his nose, kens he or cares which way he goes. Gramercy, quoth Lord Marmion, full loth were I that Friar John, that venerable man for me, were placed in fear or jeopardy. If this same palmer will me lead from hence to Holyrood, like his good saint I'll pay his meed, instead of cockle shell or bead. With angels fair and good I love such holy ramblers. Still, they know to charm a weary hill with song, romance, or lay, some jovial tale, or glee, or jest, some lying legend at the least, they bring to cheer the way. Ah, noble sir, young Selby said, and finger on his lip he laid. This man knows much, perchance even more than he could learn by holy lore. Still to himself he's muttering, and shrinks as at some unseen thing. Last night we listened at his cell. Strange sounds we heard, and, sooth to tell, he murmured on till morn, howe'er no living mortal could be near. Sometimes I thought I heard it plain, as other voices spoke again. I cannot tell, I like it not. Friar John hath told us it is wrote. No conscience clear and void of wrong can rest awake and pray so long. Himself still sleeps before his beads, have marked 10 Aves and 2 creeds. Let pass, quoth Marmion, by my fay, this man shall guide me on my way, although the great archfiend and he has sworn themselves of company. So please you, gentle youth, to call this palmer to the castle hall. The summoned palmer came in place, his sable cowl o'erhung his face. In his black mantle was he clad with Peter's keys in cloth of red. On his broad shoulders wrought the scallop shell his cap did deck. The crucifix around his neck was from Loretto brought. His sandals were with travel tore. Staff, budget, tab, bottle, scrip he wore. The faded palm branch in his hand showed pilgrim from the Holy Land. When as the palmer came in hall, nor lord nor knight was there more tall, or had a statelier step withal, or looked more high and keen, for no saluting did he wait, but strode across the hall of state, and fronted Marmion where he sate, as he his peer had been. But his gaunt frame was worn with toil, his cheek was sunk, alas, the while, and when he struggled at a smile, his eye looked haggard wild. Poor wretch, The mother that him bare, if she had been in presence there, in his wan face and sunburned hair, she had not known her child. Danger, long travel, want, or woe, soon change the form that best we know. For deadly fear can time outgo, and blanch at once the hair. Hard toil can roughen form and face, and want can quench the eye's bright grace. Nor does old age a wrinkle trace more deeply than despair. Happy whom none of these befall, but this poor palmer knew them all. Lord Marmion then his boon did ask. The palmer took him on the task, so he would march with morning tide to Scottish court to be his guide. But I have solemn vows to pay, and may not linger by the way, to fair St. Andrew's bound, within the ocean cave to pray, where good St. Brule his holy lay, from midnight to the dawn of day, sung to the billows sound. Thence to St. Filian's blessed well, whose spring can frenzied dreams dispel, and the crazed brain restore. St. Mary grant that cave or spring could back to peace my bosom bring, or bid it throb no more. And now the midnight draught of sleep, where wine and spices richly steep, in massive bowl of silver deep, the page presents on knee. Lord Marmion drank a fair good rest, the captain pledged his noble guest, the cup went through among the rest, who drained it merrily. Alone the palmer passed it by, though Selby pressed him courteously. This was a sign the feast was o'er. It hushed the merry wassail roar, the minstrels ceased to sound. Soon in the castle naught was heard, but the slow footstep of the guard, pacing his sober round. With early dawn Lord Marmion rose, and first the chapel doors unclose. Then, after morning rites were done, a hasty mass from Friar John, and knight and squire had broke their fast on rich substantial repast. Lord Marmion's bugles blew to horse. Then came the stirrup cup in course. Between the baron and his host, no point of courtesy was lost. High thanks were by Lord Marmion paid, solemn excuse the captain made, till, filing from the gate had passed that noble train, their lord at last. Then loudly rung the trumpet call, thundered the cannon from the wall, and shook the Scottish shore. Around the castle eddied slow volumes of smoke as white as snow, and hid its turrets hoar, till they rolled forth upon the air, and met the river breezes there, which again gave the prospect fair.